Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and the CNN panel is absolutely melting down because Donald Trump has tapped Dan Bongino to be the Deputy Secretary to the FBI, and Scott Jennings' answer on the issue is absolutely spot on. Let's dive in.
In a merit-based world here, this person does not actually have the qualifications for this particular job in the FBI.
That is correct. Neither does the Secretary of Defense, who was appointed and approved. Neither does the guy who's been nominated for Secretary of the Navy, who's like an art collector. Neither does Kash Patel. Neither does RFK. And none of these people have the experience in running departments that are that large, so they don't have the academic experience, they don't have the managerial experience, but they have the one thing that matters: loyalty to Donald Trump. And I think that when Donald Trump said, look, I'm going to be the retribution, he is putting people in place at DOJ, at FBI, who are going to be his retribution and who can execute what he wants. So people voted knowing that. With that, I agree.
Here's the thing that we need to be very clear about. You and you would never put up with a Democratic nominee, a Democratic president, nominating someone with the temperament, the history of making comments that are extrajudicial, that are not respectful of law and order. I was a Republican for 27 years. I come from a law enforcement family. I am married to a federal officer. Never in a million years would either one of you ever put up with someone that has the resume of Dan Bongino. And the fact that he has repeatedly made the comments he's made, what he calls fellow Americans, all kinds of expletives, the anger, the constant rage, the saying that we shouldn't follow laws. There are 38,000 members of the FBI, an $11 billion budget. And that is one of the most premier law enforcement agencies in the world, that they deserve better than someone like him, who has made his career after his law enforcement career, which was a long time ago, has made his career insulting people, threatening people, losing his temper, and now he's in charge of one of our preeminent law enforcement agencies next to Kash Patel, who also doesn't know what he's doing and is unqualified.
The management role in the
CFO.
Hierarchy. This person is the person who is effectively running the sort of day-to-day of the organization, which is why for all these years that person has been from within the ranks.
Well, it doesn't have to be that way, and I suspect Kash Patel is going to be a hands-on manager, but if I may address one issue. You just denigrated Bongino's law enforcement credentials. He was a cop and a Secret Service agent. You denigrated his academic credentials. He has a master's degree.
Just because he was a police officer doesn't make him qualified to run a 38,000 person, $11 billion budget agency, just like Pete Hegseth.
But you know what does? Because he
National Guardsman or everyone doesn't either. Thank you for your service.
The confidence and the pleasure of the president.
And I'm sorry that terrible.
And I'm sorry that you are not yet over the outcome of the election.
No, because look at what's happening to our country, and I'll never be over it, Scott. This is dismantling our democracy in front of our eyes, and you guys are okay with it.
You had a city that was smaller than the amount of people that live on this block, and he was the Secretary of Transportation. You had the guy who was stealing luggage. I mean, I think anyone who's defending the Biden administration.
But this is the FBI.
So?
Right.
Yeah, and this is someone who has a career in law enforcement for many years.
Freedom is at stake.
Does Dan Bongino have the qualifications to be the second person in charge of the FBI?
Yes. He has law enforcement. He has academic. And again, let me just stress this. I've mentioned this before.
So when you stack up
they
his
serve at the pleasure of the president. That's the political appointment.
I know that is the answer to every question, is that Donald Trump wants it, so therefore it is good.
For political appointments, yes.
But when we look at, we're talking about people who are qualified and not, and you look at his resume and compare it to Republican and Democrat nominees for that same position, is he qualified?
I mean, first of all, I'm not sure all the people that have been appointed in the past have covered themselves in glory. I mean, some of them have done a terrible job and gotten in lots of trouble.
Look,
and this is a reform-minded administration. They got outsiders.
Seriously, what are y'all complaining about? Maybe deep down they're just that afraid. They are afraid that the FBI is going to be weaponized against them. Except that's not how Republicans play. We know that Democrats love playing like this. Republicans haven't played like this ever since Nixon got caught with his hand in the cookie jar in the Watergate scandal. Okay? What Republicans continually do is just say, can we please get back to the Constitution? Okay? That's what we want. And Democrats take that as a personal affront. And then this panel is out here screaming about Dan Bongino because he doesn't have the right credentials. No, he doesn't. And that's the point. He doesn't have the right credentials. He hasn't gone through the department. And I think that's exactly why he has been appointed to a deputy position in the FBI. Ultimately, his job will not be to investigate. His job is to make sure that the FBI is doing its job. That means that someone who's been a harsh critic now gets in there and makes sure that the FBI doesn't do what he has been quite literally criticizing, and criticizing correctly. And here's a statement from someone in the White House. It is totally congruent with other choices in this administration, says a Trump advisor. You're looking for telegenic people who can present a case well on camera. When you've got someone that has a natural skill set and an ideological perspective that aligns with the administration, that's the kind of secret sauce. So yeah, when it comes to credentials, that's exactly why I want Dan Bongino in there. It's not because he has gone up through the ranks. It's not because he has figured out where Dillinger and the Wild Bunch were hiding. That's not what the FBI does anymore. The FBI's sole job is to make sure that when there are crimes that are across state lines, when crimes are committed across state lines, that's when they come in there and investigate. Okay? That's literally their purpose. And instead, I've shown you exactly how they've been weaponized. And currently, these people are complaining, screaming to high heaven. From the same article, for others, Bongino's ascension is a source of profound anxiety. Given his rhetoric and Trump's vindictive streak, they fear that Bongino's pugilism will translate into miscarriages of justice. Didn't we just have that? But they go on to say, if you have people whose goal it is to actually investigate crimes based on the standards that are set forth of investigations, but rather to use the tools of law enforcement to go after people, they can do that. Buddy. And this is coming from a former FBI official who wants to remain anonymous. This has already happened. And they're terrified of people saying, okay, you've overstepped your bounds, daddy's home, and it's time to start dealing out some discipline. Okay? That's what they're terrified of. All right? Most humans are terrified of that. Let's be completely honest here. But these swamp monsters up in DC are now terrified that someone from outside of their own sphere of influence, from outside of their original perspectives, from outside of their own little control groups, is now pulling the strings. Dan Bongino has been calling out the utter nonsense and absolute lack of adherence to the Constitution and to, some would say, basic morality. And now we have someone, not only Kash Patel, but now Dan Bongino, who is giving up his podcast career to work in DC for a couple of years. That is absolutely unheard of, that someone is giving up their wealth in order to serve the American people. Except, we've heard this not once, but twice. And actually, you can say it 3 times. The first time was when American citizens, colonists of the British Empire, realized that they had been given a poor shake, and they dedicated to themselves their lives, their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honors. After all, Benjamin Franklin was famous for saying, "We must all hang together, or we will all hang separately." Those men and women gave up their lives when necessary. They gave up their fortunes when necessary in order to defend freedoms and to create a better governing system than what was being thrust upon them. Donald Trump has taken up that mantle quite literally, and is now quite literally lost money as president while being president. That's kind of a first if you follow politics. That's kind of a first in a long, long time. And that's why I am so pumped for Dan Bongino. He has given up his fortune to make sure that he can help clean up the FBI. This is a good thing, and the more the left screams about something, the more the Democrats whine, the more we know we are over the target. And Scott Jennings simply tells the truth to the CNN panel, and they can't handle it. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one, and until then, y'all have a good one.